visas and visa decisions. Can I therefore ask the Universities Minister if she's aware of these delays with international students and what conversations are being had with the Home Office accordingly?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm more than happy to meet with the Honourable Member, and I work very closely with my colleague in the Home Office to assist and make it as smooth as possible, as international students are vital to this country, not just economically but culturally and for our society as well.
Bob Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was going to wear my headset, especially for you, but I couldn't find anywhere to plug it in. My right honourable friend has recently had a meeting to discuss defibrillators in schools, and I wonder if you could give us an update on where that will happen and how we can make sure that schools are safe for everyone.
Minister.
Well, it was very incredibly moving to speak to Mark King, listening to his tragic experience of losing his son Oliver, and he was joined by Jamie Carragher as well. And it really does focus the need for us to do as much as possible in order to encourage schools to have defibrillators. That's why we'll be looking at changing the regulations that are underpinned by secondary legislation in order to ensure that all schools do have defibrillators in the future and hopefully prevent such tragedy visiting more families.
Here, Rachel Muskell.
Here. Safeguarding young people in statutory settings like schools must always be a priority. Yet the same children in community settings are being exposed to huge risks, including consuming large volumes of alcohol, exposed to drug dealing, and also sexual exploitation. So will the Minister meet with me to discuss the lack of youth provision for our young people and the importance of putting these services in place, like on the Little Naysmire in York?
Here. Minister.
I absolutely agree that we need to have more for our young people to do, which is why it's been so brilliant over this summer to see our amazing holiday and activities programme, which has given young people access to opportunities they never had before and help give them confidence, build their well-being, close the attainment gap as well as food. I'd be more than happy to meet her to find out more what's happening in her.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It was great to visit the excellent Ilfracombe Church of England Primary School's holiday, activity and food programme. But this was one of only a handful of these programmes in my rural North Devon constituency. What steps is my honourable friend taking to ensure more students can access them in the future?
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to really thank all those honourable members who visited their HAF programmes this summer. They had so much fun, and I'm delighted actually that participation was so high the first time we ever had this type of project for our children. Local authorities are already setting out their plans for this Christmas, and let's make sure that we get to even more kids.
Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the past decade, there's been a 47% decrease in drama and a 36% drop in music participation in schools. A broad curriculum is vital to young people's life chances, yet access often depends on parents' ability to pay for these activities. I heard what the Minister had to say about the music curriculum, but unless the government commits to providing the resources to all schools to provide creative arts education, young people will be let down. What will the Minister do about it? Will he provide that funding?
Minister.
We are committed to arts education. The proportion taking at least one GCSE in an arts subject has remained broadly stable over the last 10 years. And also we're committed to very significant sums of funding for arts and music projects, £620 million over the last 3 years, including £79 million for the 119 music education hubs, £148 million for the music and dance scheme. We are very committed to the arts and to drama in our schools.
Lynn Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Secretary of State kindly speak with the Secretary of State for the Home Department about getting visas for the 12 at-risk Afghan scholars, some still in hiding, some in Pakistan, who have been awarded sponsored places by high-quality British universities and need the visas to take them up?
I will most certainly undertake to do that, and I think we've seen the education community in the United Kingdom coming together in order to support those who want to resettle from Afghanistan here in this country, but I will certainly undertake that. And we also want to look at the opportunities for those brilliant, amazing people from Afghanistan and other opportunities they can play in our part in the education system here in the UK.
We now come to the statement on Afghanistan from the Prime Minister. Prime Minister.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With your permission, I will update the House on the situation in Afghanistan and our enduring effort to provide sanctuary for those to whom we owe so much. Since the House last met, our armed forces, diplomats and civil servants have completed the biggest and fastest emergency evacuation in recent history, overcoming every possible challenge in the most harrowing conditions and bringing 15,000 people to safety in the UK, and helping 36 other countries airlift their own nationals. They faced the pressure of a remorseless deadline and witnessed a contemptible terrorist attack at the very gates of the airport, with 2 British nationals and 13 of our American allies among the dead. But they kept going, and in the space of a fortnight, they evacuated our own nationals alongside Afghan friends of this country who guided, translated and served with our soldiers and officials, proving their courage and loyalty beyond doubt, sometimes in the heat of battle. The whole House will join me in commending the courage and ingenuity of everyone involved in the Kabul airlift, one of the most spectacular operations in our country's post-war military history. This feat exemplified the spirit of all the 150,000 British servicemen and women who deployed in Afghanistan over the last 2 decades, of whom 457 laid down their lives and many others suffered trauma and injury. Thanks to their efforts, no terrorist attack against this country or any of our Western allies has been launched from Afghanistan for 20 years. They fulfilled the first duty of the British Armed Forces to keep our people safe, and they and their families should take pride in everything they did. Just as they kept us safe, so we shall do right by our veterans. In addition to the extra £3 million we've invested in mental health support through NHS Op Courage, we're providing another £5 million to assist military charities who do such magnificent work, with the aim of ensuring that no veteran's request for help will go unanswered. And now the evacuation of Pitting will give way to Operation Warm Welcome, with an equal effort to help our Afghan friends begin their new lives here in the United Kingdom, and recognising the strength of feeling across the House about the plight of individual Afghans. Years before this episode, we began to fulfil our obligation to those Afghans who had helped us, bringing 1,400 to the UK. Then, in April this year, we expanded our efforts by opening the Afghan relocations and assistance policy. And even before the onset of Operation Pitting, we'd brought around 2,000 to the UK between June and August, and our obligation lives on. So let me say to anyone to whom we've made commitments and who is currently in Afghanistan, we are working urgently with our friends in the region to secure safe passage, and as soon as routes are available, we will do everything possible to help you to reach safety. Over and above this effort, the UK is formally launching a separate resettlement programme, providing a safe and legal route for up to 20,000 Afghans in the region over the coming years, with 5,000 in the first year. We are upholding Britain's finest tradition of welcoming those in need. And I emphasise that under this scheme we will of course work with the UN and aid agencies to identify those we should help, as we have done in respect of those who fled the war in Syria. But we will also include Afghans who have contributed to civil society or who face a particular risk from the Taliban, for example, because of their role in standing up for democracy and human rights, or because of their gender or sexuality or religion. All who come to our country through this safe and legal route will receive not a 5-year visa, but indefinite leave to remain. And our support will include free English courses for adults and 300 university scholarships. We will shortly be writing to local authorities and the devolved administrations with details on funding for extra school places and long-term accommodation across the UK. I'm grateful for everything they are doing, and of course for the work of my honourable friend, the Minister for Afghan Resettlement.